Oh, it's been revealed this morning Premier Jacinta Allan has known about the possible return of ISIS brides and their children to Victoria for as long as 5 months now. It comes amid further revelations this week that most of the returning group will be resettled in Victoria upon their expected return to Australia. Now, attention is turning to what safeguards and surveillance will be put in place to keep the community safe. Joining us now is Professor Donald Rothwell, one of Australia's top international law experts. Good morning to you. Just firstly, the opposition is saying we need to shut the door to the ISIS brides outside of the exclusion order powers. Is that possible?
Well, as things currently stand, it's really the exclusion orders powers, as you've described them, which really provide the legislative framework for the Commonwealth to be able to act. And of course, we know that a temporary exclusion order has been issued against one of the women in the group. The Coalition has put forward a proposal for new legislation that they announced earlier this week, but that really only goes to assistance to the women and the children, as opposed to actually physically stopping them from crossing the border.
So could we tighten the exclusion orders, lower the threshold, so that would keep them out like the opposition is suggesting?
Look, in principle, there's no reason why the provisions of the Counter-Terrorism Temporary Exclusion Orders Act could not be subject to amendment. And indeed, Minister Burke has noted the fact that there needs to be a fairly high threshold met for an order to be issued. And of course, only one of the 11 women are subject to an order at the moment. So yes, that's entirely possible. And I must admit, I was somewhat surprised that when the Coalition came out with their announcement over the weekend that they were not proposing an amendment to that act, given some of their comments from last week.
So we could change the exclusion orders that would make it harder for these women to come back to Australia.
Yes, in principle, there's no reason why that couldn't be done. Of course, that would need to have an amendment made to that law, but at the moment there's no such proposal. And I guess on base of the comments made by the government, the Prime Minister, Minister Burke, there may not be government support for such a proposal in any event.
Yeah, they're saying it wouldn't get through the High Court.
Well, that, of course, is the constitutional issue. And, of course, there's a constitutional issue at the moment, in my view, about the existing legislation. But the existing act upon which the Minister has issued the one temporary exclusion order has not been subject to challenge, to my knowledge, before the High Court. So that is a constitutional issue that has not yet been tested.
OK, so we haven't tested it yet. Other people are saying just cancel their passports, don't let them back. Could we do that?
Well, the Minister has already issued passports. There's no real basis for passports to be cancelled unless in the exceptional instance of where somebody has been convicted of a terrorism offence and that person is also a citizen of another country. So given the fact that the passports have been issued at this point in time, there would be no grounds for the cancellation of the passports, in my view.
Did we have to issue them?
Well, that was a decision that the Minister made under the Passports Act. And once again, while there are some grounds upon which a passport can be denied for a person who may be seeking to travel from Australia to commit a terrorist offence overseas, this is quite a distinctive situation. And at one level, without a passport, these persons have no ability to travel at all, irrespective of whether they're coming back to Australia. But if they're trying to flee the camps in Syria, their ability to move without an Australian passport, without an identity document, would of course be incredibly compromised.
OK, you've written an article arguing the children are not responsible for their parents and they should be brought back. Is there a world where we bring the kids back without their mothers?
Well, look, that's a really interesting dimension that's starting to emerge here, and I've seen reports in which some of the women have indicated that they'd be more than happy for their children to be repatriated to Australia on their own and that they would remain in Syria. So, in my view, we're starting to reach a point in this situation where the government may be forced possibly to act, if only because the security situation in the Roj camp is deteriorating quite quickly. We know that one of the other camps in Syria has been emptied over the course of the last week. So what options are the government considering? Even if they're not physically going to repatriate the children to Australia, would they seek to relocate the families to somewhere else where at least they would be safe and secure, and then would be able to make their own decisions as to what they would do from there on?
OK. Professor, thank you very much for your insight this morning. It is really interesting and very controversial.
You're welcome. Nice to speak to you.
Here's Chevo.
Yeah.